Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for our event, Driving Innovation in Construction Engineering, Logistics, and Utilities. I'm Agathe, and I will be your host for today. I am the program manager here at Connected Places Catapult, and I oversee the Advanced Construction Program. Before we hear from the SMEs, I'd like to give you a bit more information about the Connected Places Catapult and the Advanced Construction Accelerator Program. I'm just going to wait until the slides appear on the screen. But it is my pleasure to have you with me today. It appears the slide disappeared again. It's all fine. I can still talk without them. So Connected Places Catapult is part of a vibrant, innovative ecosystem as a non-for-profit organization. We run a number of projects funded by Innovate UK, as well as other commercial initiatives. The Catapult network brings together 9 leading technologies and innovation centers spanning across 40 locations across the UK. We connect businesses and public sector leaders to cutting-edge solutions to spark innovation in brand new markets. One of the ways we do this is through accelerator programs, such as the Advanced Construction Accelerator Program. Over the years, Connected Places Catapult has demonstrated a strong track record in leading and delivering accelerator programs that focuses on industry challenges. Brilliant. We now have some slides. Where was I? We have supported over 90 SMEs, helping them to scale their business and secure funding. The Advanced Construction Accelerator Program is a brand new program designed specifically for SMEs with disruptive solutions in the construction domain. The program launched in February and we conclude mid-July. During the program, we offer the SMEs coaching and mentoring, as well as investment readiness and technical support. For this program, we are supported by Ferrovial Construction, Ipstock, and Arup, and they are currently working with the SMEs to validate their solution. For the first cohort, we are addressing 3 challenges. The first challenge is called Streamline Operations. Here we have products and services that positively impact the output and or efficiency of projects, such as technologies that enables the delivery, to deliver projects on time and on budget, innovation that supports supply chain integration and visibility, tools which support just-in-time delivery and material optimization. The second challenge is called carbon reduction. This challenge is all about the innovation that supports greener operation and delivery of construction projects that align with the UK net zero ambitions, such as new sustainable materials, carbon management tools, and so on. Finally, the last challenge is called digital future. This challenge is all about data and the use of digital tools that make the delivery, operation, and renewal of the built environment safer, more efficient, and more collaborative. Today, you will hear from 8 SMEs that are part of the program. And the aim of today's session is to introduce those SMEs to our wider network and allow you to benefit from their technology. Before we start, just to give a little bit of time for people to log in and discover the platform a little bit, we're going to give you 10 minutes before we kick off with the first presentation. So please go to the People's page where you can network with the people that are attending the event, or go to the booth where you can discover already a little bit more about the SMEs that will be presenting today. I see you in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi again. So I hope you had some time to discover the platform and see it maybe connect with some people in the people area or see the booth in the expo area. Before we kick off with our first presentation, just a couple of things. We have a Q&A section, so please do ask questions. For each presentation, the speaker will talk for 10 minutes and then you will have some time to ask questions. So please get ready and I'm sure you will have plenty of questions for them. First up, we have Housebot. We will talk about protecting infrastructures with robotics, and we are welcoming Jack.
Hi there, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to share the slides I'll be presenting. And hopefully they'll get added in shortly. Super. So good afternoon. My name's Jack. I am one of the founders of Housebots. At Housebots, we're building robots for protection and maintenance of buildings and infrastructure. Our purpose for existing is that we think it's ridiculous that we live in the 21st century and still humans are put at danger every day on ropes, scaffolding, access platforms, in inspection and maintenance of our most critical assets. We want to use robotics to stop this happening, stop human feet leaving the floor. The real problem that we're addressing is the cost, the danger, and the disruption involved with access equipment. As soon as a work at height project is decided that access equipment, such as scaffolding and platforms, is needed, then typically 50% of the cost of that budget will go onto employing the access equipment. It's extremely dangerous, with the leading cause of work-related fatalities being falls from height. Almost 90,000 people will fall from a height every year in the UK and the US. And it's extremely disruptive. Insurances, licenses, permits, road closures mean that sending humans off the floor can be very time consuming. Current state-of-the-art technology for these tasks is things like drones. Drones are typically very good at visual-based tasks. Think of taking images, taking videos, and other forms of non-contact inspection. The product that we have on the market, our HB1 wall climbing robot, is designed specifically for inspection and maintenance tasks that need contact with a surface. When a drone starts to want to undertake these types of tasks, you have weather dependencies, flight time limitations, and the need for a stable contact with the surface. The HB1 wall climbing robot is uniquely positioned in its ability to climb on any type of surface due to its patent pending technology and proprietary airflow design. The robot is not creating a suction seal or a vacuum, instead is making use of pressure differentials to generate almost 50 kilograms of force into a surface. Because the robot's not sealed against the surface, we can climb real-world surfaces, brick, render, concrete, smooth surfaces, metal, glass, and other similar surfaces, overcome obstacles, and have a payload of around 6 kilograms for attachments and these types of tasks that I mentioned that are specifically for contact-based tasks. The robot itself and the platform is our USP, that's our special bit. We have developed the HB1 platform to be small, compact, and infinitely integratable. On the front and back, we have expansion ports for cameras, for power, for mounting. It's extremely easy to carry and transport with all of the robot and it's supporting items fitting into 2 small carry cases so it can be shipped anywhere in the world. And we then enable easy integrations to our customers to enable the robot to undertake different tasks. Things that we offer today include ground penetrating radar for concrete inspections and other forms of see-through penetrating inspections. We offer a few different types of GPR and ground penetrating radar. We offer ultrasound and ultrasound pulse echo for concrete integrity measurements, ultrasound for metal thickness measurements. And really the message I'm trying to get across here is what I mentioned earlier about the platform really being infinitely integratable. We offer a number of off-the-shelf integrations like the ones that I'm showing you here, and we're already offering through our business, but can also work with partners to integrate custom attachments to specifically meet their needs that we may not have thought about. Our business began back in 2019 when my co-founder came up with the idea of using a robot for work at height painting projects. Fast forward to today, we're based in Birmingham. We're a team of 8 robotics engineers, have received just over $1 million in funding from venture capital and grant funding, and our product is on the market. We have robots operating today in Canada, Singapore, and many other countries across Europe. We've completed a number of successful projects, including exterior painting projects, inspections on behalf of the road network with national highways, oil and gas inspections using ultrasonic thickness measurements to inspect storage tanks, and undertaking work on some of the most high-profile critical assets in the country, including the QE2 bridge in Dartford, as you can just see the robot looking nice and small there, and on behalf of Sellafield. In both of these cases, we were using high-quality cameras and radar in situations where drones are prohibited to fly. The robot can also be used in internal inspections. Here you can see the robot with lights and a camera rig as it goes into a confined space of the internals of the storage tank, which is another prime example of a situation that is quite dangerous for humans to enter. A quick note on some of the competition that we have and alternate robots on the market. There's already a significantly matured magnetic crawling robots market, with the leader in that market probably being Gecko Robotics. Obviously, it goes without saying that magnetism and the method of adhesion that we're using are really quite different, with our robot being able to unlock all of the magnetic and non-magnetic surfaces. Some competitors will use suction or vacuum systems to stick their robots to a surface. The problem with a vacuum system is that you need typically an extremely smooth surface to maintain that vacuum as you slide over it. And finally, some drones in the market are attempting to do contact-based tasks, but as I mentioned earlier, a number of drones have issues with payload capacities, controllability, and weather dependencies. Most notably, with our robot being able to be used in high wind conditions, which many drones can't. Super. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and look forward to speaking to you later.
Hey, Jack, can you come back on video and on sound for the questions? We don't have questions so far. Please do ask your questions in the Q&A box, but we still have some time for asking you questions. I do actually have one question for you, so it would be great if you could come back on stage. Amazing. My question is, can the robot go from climbing the wall back to 90 degrees flat surface, or is it one of the capabilities of the robot, or does it need to be more developed?
Not at the moment, but we're working on improvements of the robot every day, and that's one of the systems that we're developing at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. What's the biggest project you've worked on so far? Was it in the UK or?
Yeah, so we've got kind of two sides of our business. We've got the service sector of our business where we provide, literally services. We provide an operator, we provide a robot, and deliver a full service. And we've got the sales and leasing part of our business where we just provide the robots and training to third parties. We've, as I mentioned, sent robots on that kind of sales model all across the world. But probably our most notable service project was the QE2 bridge inspection that I showed the photo of there. It's obviously an iconic asset across the world, and talking to the asset owner, which is National Highways, then typically weeks worth of rope access and extreme expense and danger is gone to inspect these assets, which can be done much more efficiently from a cost and health and safety perspective using our climbing robots.
All right, thank you. Do we have any more questions in the Q&A box? If not, you can always ask me to get Jack's details, or you can find him in the people tab, and he will be around today. So if you have any questions, or if you want to engage in a more personal conversation, please reach out to him. But Jack, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure having you, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Next up, we have Daraj Nijar from Concrete for Change, who will speak about the future of net zero concrete. Daraj, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Agathe. Right. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's keeping well. My name is Daraj Nijar, and I'm Chief Commercial Officer at Concrete for Change. So I hope you can see those slides now. So our mission is that we are aiming to reduce 2 billion tons of CO2 emissions in the concrete industry by 2040. And how we're doing this is by bringing forward disruptive technological innovation to decarbonize the industry. So some of you may know this or may not know this. So concrete is the second most used material in the world after water. It's used in all of the necessary infrastructure that you know and use today, whether that be roads, pavements, tunnels, bridges. It's a fundamental part of our society. However, there is a glaring need for us to transition the industry from the traditional and unsustainable means of production to a net zero future. So much so that our target is that we want to create concrete that is 70% cheaper and 100% greener. Our technology has been awarded the most innovative net zero award by the UN COP26 conference, which was an amazing achievement for us at the time. And it showcases the belief in the technology from one of the largest public bodies. And I'll go into our solution in a little bit. So in terms of the problem itself, if you look at the current context, so today, concrete, the industry itself is contributing 8% of all global CO2 emissions. And the majority of this comes from the production of cement, primarily 3 billion tons of CO2 from the production of 4 billion tons of cement. And given that the industry is rising at a compound annual growth rate of around 12 to 23%, the issue then becomes that this 8% figure, in the best case scenario, will rise to 31% by 2050. In the worst case scenario, if nothing is done, which is currently the case, this will be 40%. And this is obviously a disaster, which we want to avoid. But the factors that are underlying this problem is that basically the industry doesn't have a coherent net zero plan across the board. Lots of companies are working on some solutions that, in our opinion and our belief, are not viable in the long term for different reasons. And if you think further up the supply chain in terms of how concrete basically feeds into the construction supply chain, again, there are not much in the way of kind of coherent net zero plans in place. And also when you factor in scope 3 emissions that are coming in soon, there must be a declaration of embodied carbon, not just within one own supply chain as a company, but also within the wider value chain of other companies that you may be working with. And what we found is, from my research in particular, both concrete and construction are not very well set up for this new transition towards a more sustainable, low emission future. So to give you a little bit more detail on the key issue, so we're trying to tackle the emissions associated in the embodied carbon in particular associated with cement. So for each cubic meter of concrete produced, over 70% of that emission, 350 kg, is associated with cement, even though it makes up around 10 to 12% of the mixed proportion of concrete. So it's a very huge factor that we're looking to target and looking to reduce and optimize for a greener future. And so how we're doing that is our solution involves taking CO2 from any industry. So this could be from, for example, a cement manufacturing site and taking the CO2 flue gases that come out of the cement furnaces, or for example, from a carbon capture plant, in the UK or EU. And what we have developed is essentially what we call a carrier material. Try to think of it as almost like an additive powder that looks kind of black in color. And this is made from recycled waste materials. And we engineer it so much so that it can increase its affinity to bind with CO2, and then we mix that within fresh concrete. What this means is that we can permanently sequester carbon, waste, CO2 emission into concrete for permanent mineralization. As a result of that mineralization, we can actually reduce the amount of cement needed because our method actually increases the strength of concrete, therefore less embodied carbon. And so currently, with our current stage of our technology, generation 1, we can make concrete that is 20% cheaper and 20% greener. In particular, when you factor in that our carrier will only take up, I'd say, 1% of the total volume of concrete casted, we can actually reduce anywhere between 15 and 20% cement. And so our final target is, as I said a little bit earlier, 70% cheaper and 100% greener. So we have a long way to go, but we've made a decent start so far. And what's even better is we're introducing our carrier as an additive. So we are not changing the current cement and concrete production processes. We are merely adding on top of the current technology stack. So to give you an idea as to the process, so we make our carrier from recycled materials, waste wood being one of those. We then prepare that carrier to our specification with a number of suppliers. As I said earlier, we can use a number of different sources of CO2 depending on the supply chain and what's useful for our customers. And we don't necessarily have to use purified CO2, which is more expensive and has embodied emissions associated with that. And then that carrier is then delivered to our customers, and then that's obviously then mixed at their batching plant and taken to where it needs to be casted. So in terms of the wider solution value proposition, so we're basically harnessing the potential of concrete to absorb CO2. So this process is known as carbonation. And it happens naturally in its lifespan. So if you were to look at any concrete building, local to yourselves right now, over its 100-year lifespan, it will naturally take in carbon from the air. However, this process is very limited. The carbonation can only penetrate the very outer layers of the concrete, and it's a painfully slow process that is not enough to kind of tackle the issues at hand associated with concrete emission. And so what we're doing is with our solution, we're essentially accelerating that carbonation from 100 years to 100 hours. In terms of our more financial and business model type value proposition, so we can reduce the amount of cement that's needed within concrete, which is cement in particular is responsible for 60% of the price and is actually growing year on year, 2 to 5%. We can also help companies mitigate CO2 taxes and caps that are coming into play. For example, I know that Hampton, which is the biggest UK manufacturer of ready-mix concrete, they're currently paying penalties to the UK government as a result of exceeding their emission cap from their cement manufacturing sites. And there's also the possibility of selling carbon offsets. So a lot of companies in construction and concrete actually buying carbon offsets to offset their own emissions. But because of our ability to actually permanently store and remove carbon through our method, we can actually help them tap into this market, making it a source of revenue for them. And to give you an indication, so Carbon Cure, which is the market leader in our space, based out of America, they're currently selling their carbon offsets at $220 per ton, and it's set to grow exponentially over the next few years. And so when you put this all together, our technology through cement reduction, through CO2 tax mitigation, and also CO2 collection mitigation on top of the carbon offsets, we can generate significant savings for our customers. The 70% target, the 70% that you see here is the long-term target. But even in the very short term, once we get to market in the next 1 or 2 years, we can help make projects 35% cheaper on average. And so with our technology, the beauty of it is we're actually combining 3 very large markets together. The concrete market, which is set to grow to 1 trillion by the end of the decade, the carbon capture and utilization market for concrete, and also the carbon offset market. And when you put these together, this means that we have a really huge opportunity in front of us that we believe we can become the industry standard for. To give you an idea of what some of the biggest companies are doing right now in terms of reducing embodied carbon. So the main method with which they're doing this is basically using the byproducts of byproduct materials, cementitious type materials from other industries, namely coal and steel production. These materials are commonly known as fly ash and GGBS. And whilst they do reduce embodied carbon by replacing cement to some degree in concrete mixes, these materials are actually not available at industrial scale very soon due to supply shortages. And so also as well, if you factor in that in top of the biggest companies needing to implement CCS, carbon capture and storage, this is actually increasing the price of concrete exponentially, which is making a core commodity of our society, very, very difficult for the current supply chain to buy and use. And so what we're looking to do is basically reduce reliance on these materials and actually, as I said earlier, harness the potential for concrete to capture and utilize carbon for value. And there's no theoretical limitation to our method. This is a table of our competitors, but just in summary, I'd say Carbon Cure is the market leader in our space, but we can actually sequester 10 times more carbon into concrete right now than them, and this is soon to be 30 times in the next year, given our R&D roadmap. And so we are also applicable to all types of concrete application, both ready mix and precast, whereas the competition tend to focus on one or the other. And so on top of this, we're also implementing a slightly different business model, which I'll talk about later, that actually helps us differentiate ourselves from the market, co-create value with our customers, and basically defend our IP and our strategy going forward. So the business model itself is licensing. So we are not going to be manufacturing concrete. We are merely providing the R&D capability that we believe the concrete industry is missing. And that's primarily through our carrier technology and our sequestration process methodology. So customers will procure a license. They will then get our carrier as well as the associated process unit to integrate that with their batching plants. And then they can obviously reap the benefits in terms of the savings I've mentioned, and also the carbon offset market as well, that they'll be able to tap into. And our beachhead market is the 5 biggest consumers of concrete by country in the UK. So that's UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain for the first couple of years. And we also have the likes of Co2 Saving Group in Thailand and others around the world who are very interested in using our technology going forwards once it's ready to do so. This means that with our model, we can actually scale very quickly once we reach commercialization. Even with a very small market share, we can create significant saving for our customers, which will then, as a part of that saving, we'll take our licensing fee as a cut. So roughly 40% of the savings would be our licensing fee as a result. In terms of where we're at today, so we are basically past the proof of concept stage now, moving into TRL 4 to 5. We've had our concept of our carrier and sequestration verified by the University of Warwick, WMG. So they tested our technology independently and commissioned a third-party report, which justified our method and showcased the benefits of our method and the scalability. And we recently completed our first major industrial deployment with Hanson, with one of their supply chains involving Cisco and Pantera Group in London a few months ago. And we have a number of trials in the pipeline coming very soon as well, which will be very exciting for us to complete. And we're also filing a number of patents, which will help secure our IP and provide the foundation for our business model going forward. So in terms of our traction so far, so we've just finished raising our pre-seed round, around £500,000 of investment from Co2 Saving Group, Goldbeck Construction, Sustainable Ventures, and SDGX. So Goldbeck and CM are 2 of the biggest concrete manufacturers in the world, providing investment through their CVC arms. Sustainable Ventures is one of the biggest climate tech venture builders in EU, and SDGX is a climate tech VC fund out of Australia and Singapore that are helping us tap into the market over there. And we have a number of big players from the likes of CRH, Ferrovial, Marshalls as well, who signaled their intent to work with us going forward and are very interested to integrate our technology into their operations going forward as well. So in terms of the theoretical maximum of our technology, we can, if we get to the maximum threshold of 30% sequestration of carbon within concrete using our technology, we could actually mitigate up to 1.5 times the total of the EU emissions at present, which is an amazing figure, and something that, whilst is very, very far away, was something that we want to achieve, and if we did achieve, would be absolutely amazing. But I think we're very conscious that the concrete industry needs solutions to reduce emissions, and it won't just be ours, there'll be alternative cements, other things that are coming into market which will have their place. I think together we can really help decarbonize the industry going forward, which is a problem that desperately needs solving. In terms of our team, so Sid is our CEO, a concrete industry expert and serial entrepreneur, CEO of 2 previous companies as well. Both did over 100 million in turnover. Michael is a process technology scale-up specialist, who was technical lead at the second biggest spin out of Imperial College not too long ago. I used to run an accelerator at WMG University of Warwick, helping companies focus on decarbonisation, 4 of which got to the scale-up stage. And Ash is a climate crisis project management expert who's been running Horizon 2020 Europe projects for the last few years. And we have a very strong board of advisors across different areas such as concrete industry itself, carbon capture, and chemistry as well, really helping us de-risk our development as we go forward. And we've had a number of achievements alongside our UN COP26 Prize Award. In particular, we've had great support from Innovate Edge, from the Royal Academy of Engineering, and from the EIT Climate Kick Accelerator, which is helping us apply for EU funding to the tune of around 10 million euros to help us get to market in the next few years. So we've really been blessed with the support, as well as also the Connected Places Catapult as well, that provide really crucial support to us to help us get through this very crucial stage and get us ready for preparing our technology for market in hopefully a couple of years' time. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Dal. Thank you for dialing in from Germany, I believe, today.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes, if you have any questions for Dal, there is the Q&A section. We still have a few minutes, so please pop your question in there so I can ask them to Dal. But in the meantime, which stage is your company at the moment?
Yeah, so I would, it depends on the definition. Yes, TRLs have different definitions, but I would say how we're at, I'd say TRL 4 to 5 is where we're at. So what that means is we are beginning to validate our technology in relevant environments. So we've just done our first industrial deployment with Hansen. It wasn't 100% a success. Nothing is with kind of deep tech R&D. There was a lot of good points that came out of it, as well as a lot of learnings. And now it's a case of doing a number of trials, hopefully around 5 to 10 more in the next 12 months, both in our own lab and also in kind of real kind of context as well, real applications, low risk, non-safety critical applications. So as to build the bank of evidence we need as to, okay, how does our technology perform? Is it consistent? Are customers reaping the benefit of it from primarily right now a technological perspective? And then building that bank of evidence to then put to the regulators and the relevant bodies responsible for safety to say, look, this works perfectly well, there's no issues, and that will then help us get to market soon. So hopefully, I anticipate in the next 2 years, if everything was to go swimmingly well, then we will be in market very soon in that time frame. But I don't want to be quoted for that, but I'm very optimistic. I try to be optimistic. So hopefully 2 years time, you'll see some of our concrete in the world somewhere.
Good, thank you. So I think you kind of answered my next question, which was, what are your immediate objectives? But so just following up on that, how would you like to work with a potential partner? So I think you kind of said that, Charles, live and non-live.
Yeah, so I think at this current stage, what we're looking for is opportunities for deployment of our technology or small scale trials. So in particular, so just to give you more detail on the Hansen deployment. So they were supplying kind of GGBS concrete 80-20, so 80% GGBS, 20% Term 1 concrete to Pantera. Pantera is a small construction company based out of the south of London who had a sustainable hoarding system, and they had these molds basically in which they pour the Hanson concrete and then use those molds as part of their hoarding system. And so what we did was we basically mixed our carrier with the Hanson concrete, changed none of the variables, and then basically poured that concrete with our carrier into those molds. Very, very simple trial. But it's just a case of, okay, are there any other opportunities available? That's more of a precast type application, if you will. Can we, for example, cast some of our concrete in a small pavement somewhere? Can we do part of the road? And just basically kind of scaling up those trials from there, because obviously it wouldn't be very sensible to do lots of, or a very large scale deployment right now, given the kind of stage we're at. So hence we're looking for small scale trials to conduct with partners that are interested in low emission, low carbon concrete, and then take it from there. Because then if we complete those trials successfully, which I'm confident that we will, then it builds confidence for us to go for large scale deployments, and then it kind of all snowballs from there, basically. So yeah, please feel free to reach out if you're interested in a trial and working together, because we're actively looking for these opportunities.
It was great to have you today. If you really want to learn more about Concrete for Change, please reach out to Dar. I'm happy to share his details, or it will be probably in the networking people section. You can chat with him then. But thank you so much, Dar, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Next up we have, thank you. Next up we have Structure Power and with Jonathan, and so it will be talking about Structure Power. Enabling concrete reduction in construction with AI. Hi, Jonathan. The floor is yours.
Hey there. I'm just gonna pop up my screen. Let's see. Okay. So if everybody can see me, I'll just kick in. Okay. So hi everybody. My name is Jonathan, CEO and founder of Structure Power from Israel. I'll start by stating something that I guess most of you know, but our industry is using too much concrete. And if we'll be more precise, we're using more than we should. That is exactly the base point of Structure Power. We want to eliminate that over design, that thing that causes the industry to use too much concrete, using our novel AI tactics. So I know that you heard a lot about the current status of the industry and the CO2 emissions. So I'm just gonna skip this part. Just you probably know that the industry is responsible for almost 40% of the global CO2 emissions, but roughly a quarter of that comes from the concrete industry. And as my former said, yes, after water, it's concrete, and it's the most used material in the industry. But I think the most baffling number worldwide, and that's the average we actually managed to acquire, is the fact that 1 cubic meter of reinforced concrete, on average, will cost the environment 500 kilograms of CO2 in its life cycle. Now, that is an enormous number for relatively a very small piece of concrete. So why are we using too much concrete? Why is that over-designed? Well, there's a few reasons for that. The first one is the fact that we're building more. But at the same time, we don't have enough people to design those buildings. And those people are the structural engineers, those consultancies that are battling with less and less manpower by the day. And if that's not enough, 35% of the cost of the building, if we're talking about residential buildings precisely, will come from its concrete structure. And these engineers will have roughly 4 weeks to design its preliminary design, which is roughly half of the design, but the most important part of the design. So not enough people, short design periods, and a lot of and a big burden economically. That means that our structural engineers will have no other solution than using all these kind of thumb rules or fast tactics, as we call it, just to deliver the designs. So the designs will go with the code. That means they will work physically, they will be sane, but the problem is that they will not be optimized. That means they will be over-designed because these guys don't have the time to actually create a lean design in that time. And just by talking with project managers, design managers, developers in our country and outside, we learned that over-design comes in numbers of 20 to 30% more concrete, reinforced concrete. depending on the geography and the way you conduct your business, that means almost 10% of cost of overcost in terms for the client. It means he's losing funds just because we're putting too much concrete. And another thing which is quite important, I have to say, that worldwide, that specific thing causes a lot of friction between the stakeholders, because everybody knows that the structural engineer is putting too much concrete and the architect is debating him, the developer, the project manager, and that's a situation, a very problematic situation that can be solved with technology. So what are we going to do about it? So I'll start by stating our value proposition on what we know that we can give. So we'll separate the value into two. First one is the user and the client. The user from our side is the structural engineer or the design manager that works for the developer. In that case, we can help to reduce 50% of the design time of the structure just by automating. That 50% is roughly the preliminary design as a whole. The second thing which is very helpful for our client is the fact that we create no learning curve and we integrate into software. In other words, we don't want the engineers that use our software to use a new software. The contrast: use your software, use your BIM modelers, use your FEM modelers, keep using them. Our software will integrate and will actually automate and optimize within the process you used to work with. On the side of the client, that's where the big numbers kick in, and that's a developer, the one who actually need to pay for the over-design, now is in a different position. That means we can save roughly 15% of the concrete volume, roughly 50% of the cost of execution of that concrete, and we managed to reach so far up to 30% of CO2 reductions in a project, which is huge numbers for the environment. So let's have a quick glimpse on how the process look like. Well, if we're looking about the structural engineer, our structural engineer will usually use a BIM modeler such as Revit for that case. And in our case, we will tell him, don't draft, specify. Tell the system, tell our AI what you're looking for, what is the design challenge you're after. That means, please help us understand the architectural limitations. That means where can our AI place columns and beams and so on, structural loads, design preferences, material costs, and of course the construction code itself. In the case that you even have a CO2 credit, let's say, process that you can tap in, okay, no problem, we can use that as well. After the instruction engineer will specify all of these parameters, that's where the AI will kick in. In the background, it will start iteratively designing structures over and over. Every structure will be three-dimensionally modeled in the BIM without the engineer seeing, everything in the background, but using the structural engineer software. That means every iteration will be modeled, every iteration will be analyzed in the finite element modeler, and we will get the values of cost, volume, and CO2 emissions. Now, the AI will keep on iterating that process until it will converge to the most optimized solution in those three parameters. But the thing here, and the interesting thing here, is that it's not only going to recommend to the structural engineer what he should do, but actually it's going to do it for him. That means it will automatically generate a three-dimensional BIM model with all the elements and all the groups and families. It will create a fully detailed FEM model, so the engineer will see that everything is in place, it's correct, everything is blue, no reds in any place, and a full report explaining all the calculations, giving him a cost table, a precise cost table, and of course, the amount of CO2 emissions and all the details he needs, and his project manager and his developer needs, to understand if this design is stable. Now, it's important to say that the instruction engineer is still the one responsible for the design, is still the one needing to sign those papers. So we are doing any possible effort to provide him with all the details he needs. So he'll feel safe to sign everything and take our design as something that can be used, and not just a theory, but actually in practice. In terms of business model, our idea was to tap into the way that our industry is already used to pay, and not just asking for a certain fee according to square meters in a project or floor plan, of course. So it's easy to understand upfront how much you're going to pay. And for our clients, it's easy to understand the ROI of using our software. And I'll say in terms of ROI, so far, the numbers we provide in all our projects are roughly 1 to 10 for each dollar they invested. In terms of the size of the market, it's easy to understand that if we ask for, at the moment, for $1 per square meter for the beta version that we're using, and later $2, the size of the market we're approaching at the moment, which is the residential projects, low rises and mid rises, we haven't got to the high rises yet, is roughly 800 million square meters a year, and that's roughly our total available market so far, if you just multiply it by 1 or 2. In terms of competition, I'll say that we are still a niche in the entire industry of construction tech companies, but you can see already that we have 2 competitors that are kind of younger, I'll say, not that developers as we do, but still they're running behind us at the moment, and that's roughly the biggest difference. And another difference is that they're using their software through the web. That means you need to export and import files, while we take a different approach of integrating our software. But the interesting point here that I'm showing on the left side is architectural optimization landscape. A landscape that is first of all is mature in terms that they have bigger numbers in terms of investment, and they exist more time, and even a few exits. But the idea here is that this landscape on the left can actually venture into our landscape. That means if you're optimizing the architectural part, you might be interested one day to venture into the engineering part as well. So we're still looking at these guys as possible competition, but as you can see, we're only 3 of us worldwide. Just a few words about the accomplishments. We love accelerators, and I think that after being in the 2 top accelerators for construction tech in Israel, the obvious second step for us was to get into the catapult, of course, just because we really want to penetrate the British market, and they are a great way to do so. In terms of awards, we received 2 times being part of the 50 Context Startups competition, actually run by Cemex, which is a cement manufacturer. And it's interesting that they gave us that prize because we actually reduced the amount of cement. And another thing, it's important to say that as a startup, we have our one leg in the construction tech landscape, but at the same time in the climate tech. And we've shown that by winning another prize last December in a renewable energy conference here in Israel, where we actually competed against other 10 climate tech and clean tech startups and took the first prize. In terms of traction, we have the biggest construction companies in Israel, Shikunu, Binui, Shafir, and Ashdar, as clients and design partners. And we are now venturing into Europe using the same model. That means reaching the same type of companies such as WIG, Vinci, and even Arab. In terms of the team, this is one of the most interesting slides I have, because the team that is leading this company is composed of, yes, structural engineers, but with one small change. And that is that these structural engineers that you see in front of you know how to code, how to implement AI, and how to develop software. And we are seasoned structural engineers. We're looking to solve the biggest problem in our industry and in the world all the same. In terms of investors, the same clients that we have, the 2 biggest construction companies in Israel already invested in the company. We're talking about more than $1.2 million already invested in the company under equity. We have a brilliant advisory board composed of a worldly renowned professor from Techno, Rafael Zaks, which is renowned for his approach for digitalization and BIM in structural engineering. We have the local GM of Autodesk in Israel. Autodesk is helping us a lot. And of course, an engineer that most of you will know because an Israeli engineer, but with more than 40 years of experience. And that's, for us, is the worst client possible. And that's why he's there, and that's his job. And this is our vision. In 5 years, we will attempt to reduce 1 entire % of CO2 emissions. Now, we're not going to do it by ourselves. Of course, we'll have investors and clients helping us with that, but we are helping and pushing for competition in our industry and in parallel, because we do believe that we need to do something, and we need to do it right now. And concrete and reducing concrete is one of them that can push to that number that you see in front. Just to wrap everything up, this is the type of project we're dealing here with in Israel. 3,700 units in the south of Tel Aviv, and now another 1,000 units in the south of Tel Aviv as well, and so on and so on. So just imagine what happened if we can take this neighborhood and reduce 15% of the reinforced concrete that's going to be used here. So thank you very much. I'm being Jonathan Azovsky. We are StructurePal. We're here for any question you would have and like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was a great presentation. So yeah, Jonathan is joining us from Israel today, where they are based. Please, I'm going to start to sound like a parrot, but please ask your question in the Q&A section. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions for you, Jonathan. Are there any limitations to the software currently?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the last part. My apologies.
Are there limitations to the software?
Oh yeah, well, like any other software, like any other startup that exists only 2 years, we are limited at the moment for residential projects in terms of typologies, reinforced concrete, of course, and in terms of construction methods, we are using a few construction methods, not only of them, so we can optimize most, but not all. And again, that's not something that's stopping us at the moment, because yes, we're implementing more and more and more methods and more type of materials as we go. But at the same time, I will say that every type of concrete can be used. That means the other startups here that I hear that are changing the mixture, for example, of concrete, that's not a problem. That's even a benefit that we have, because you can actually test those types of concrete within our solution and to see if they're not only as good as a material, but actually optimize the overall material that you need in the structure, just by understanding their properties. And that's something that our software can actually take, and one of the benefits. So we're pushing forward, and every client that goes in have more requirements, and we love having more requirements because it helps us to navigate our R&D as it goes. And yes, we're touching only the tip of the iceberg at the moment of what we can actually do to the industry in terms of optimization and carbon reduction, or mitigation, as I love to say.
Thank you. So Jonathan, we have a question. Do you see a difference with uptake amongst the design construction community of your tech between Israel and the UK market?
Well, there's a lot of difference between Israel and the UK. The first one is the fact that the UK actually cares about CO2 emissions drastically. In Israel, it's only now starting to kick in. Israel and England share one thing, and it's the fact that we build a lot of buildings. That means Israel, if you just go from south to north in Israel, you won't stop seeing cranes all over the place like you see behind me. And I understood, well, I haven't been in the UK in a few, I don't know, like 3 years, but I heard that it's the same situation. And when you're in a position where you need to construct a lot of buildings in zero time, reducing the design time and reducing the material is acute for both countries, no matter CO2 or not. But I'll say that we are, as a startup, trying to push local regulations to adopt the same ideas of CO2 mitigation, in terms that local authorities will actually provide different tax reliefs, for example, for countries who will go under a certain benchmark of CO2 emissions in the entire project. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny you said that. In my flat, I can already see 3 cranes around my building as well. So it's definitely the same situation here. In the UK, have you already started projects here? Have you done anything?
We're just getting into the market. We're getting to know companies such as Arab, for example, and we're just sniffing around to understand where to begin. I think that our challenge is the fact that we are looking for top-tier construction companies the size we have in Israel, because our model at the moment fits them better than everyone else. So it will take some time, but I think that the market has probably the same problems and needs as ours, and I think that the same model will work in England. Again, the interesting part is the fact that engineers were the first one in England to catch us, which is Arab. That saw the solution that we have and are moving forward with us at the moment, slowly, but moving toward perhaps one day having a design partnership and even being client, hopefully.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you have other questions for Jonathan, please reach out to him directly in the people section, or if you need me to send you his email address, I'm more than happy to share the details as well. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope I get to meet you soon next month for the demo day of the program. Once you're coming, after 3 years, coming back to London, we will be here to welcome you.
Hopefully no disease will be around. We can travel and everything will be okay.
Hopefully. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
So we are now to our last presentation before the break, and we are welcoming Alex from Concretine, and they are revolutionizing concrete with graphene. Alex, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alex Mcdermott. I'm a chartered civil engineer and chartered environmentalist, and also the co-founder of Nationwide Engineering Group of Companies and Graphene enhanced concrete called Concretine, which I'm here to talk to you about today. Just bear with me 1 second. Just thinking about it a second. So I'll tell you a little bit about the technology, what's behind it, the journey we've been on, examples of projects that we've undertaken, and where we're heading in the future. So what's the problem? You've heard from a couple of great companies today, Concrete for Change, StructurePal. We're all trying to solve the same problem. So you're going to see a couple of facts and figures that you've already seen, but just to reiterate them, after water, concrete is the most widely used substance on Earth. Accounts for 8 to 10% of global CO2 emissions. So is the third biggest emitter behind the United States and China as a polluter. Around 80 to 90% of the CO2 associated with concrete is as a direct result of the cement. And to give you a sense of the scale of what we use, the global industry is forecast to emit 5.4 billion tonnes by 2030. There are various cement replacements out on the market at the moment, but generally they're from high carbon intensive industries. So really they're short-term solutions, but they're also applications or resources that are in terminal decline. But obviously concrete remains essential for the construction industry with very few alternatives. So we've got to address the problem. So how have we done that, or how are we doing that? So Nationwide Engineering and the University of Manchester, specifically the Graphene Engineering Innovation Centre, or GEEC as we call them, have developed this revolutionary concretine, which is, as I mentioned, graphene enhanced concrete. It's the result of 3 to 3.5 years of cutting edge research and development. It's been quite a journey. And what it is, it uses graphene technology to significantly enhance the performance over traditional concrete. Our results have shown significant CO2 reduction, but interestingly, cost reductions as well. And I'll explain a little bit more about that and the practical examples. In just over a year ago, May 2021, we took the technology out to the lab for the first time and deployed the material on a real world project. And we've used about 1,000 tonnes to date, with 2,000 to 3,000 tonnes over the next 12 to 18 months already in the pipeline. So what is concretine? It's a liquid-based admixture containing graphene and other materials that enables the graphene to disperse evenly throughout any cementitious material. So although we focus on concrete because it's the biggest problem, you can actually use it in screeds, mortars, etc., etc. And what it isn't, it's not a novel material that can only be used in one or a small selection of concrete mix designs. It's designed for the mass market. So basically it's to be used in virtually every single concrete worldwide, just like the other concrete additive, plasticizers being an example. And what it does, it enhances the characteristics of the concrete So there's three real ways that we're reducing CO2, and it depends on your application. So the first one here, for applications that what I call fully bared applications, so it could be ground bearing slabs, external pavements, highways, suspended slabs, mezzanine slabs, etc., etc. We're reducing the quantity of concrete required. So in our slabs that we've designed and constructed to date, we're also eliminating reinforcement. So on those slabs and the 1,000 tons of laid to date, we haven't used a single piece of reinforcement, and we also haven't used any construction joints. The third way that we're reducing CO2, and it's one that's the focus of our current research and development, is reducing the quantity of cement within the concrete itself. So depending on the application, the CO2 reduction can be through any one of those three or a combination of them. In terms of the industry, coming from being a principal contractor for 20 years, we knew that it couldn't really disrupt the market, because no matter how good your technology is, if it's something that has to change the entire construction market, it's going to be an uphill battle. So what we've done is, when we've developed the concretine additive, we've developed it to fit in and integrate with current processes. So by non-disruptive, we mean that it's using existing batching plants. It sits in a container next to the other admixtures, such as the plasticizers. It's dosed into the concrete using existing hardware and software, straight into the back of the wagon, and off it goes to site. Supply chains aren't disrupted either. Once it's at site, it's laid using normal techniques, no additional training required. We say it's really boring. It just looks like and behaves like concrete, which for us is great. That's exactly what we wanted. So how to get involved? We're currently working with about 25 different companies, or early adopter clients, as we call them, to develop the material and test it for their specific application. And that's really what I'm here for today to speak to you about, is looking where we can use the material on your application to immediately lower CO2, but also come on this journey with us together as we develop the science behind the material. 1,000 tons sounds very impressive, and it is. However, it's a very, very big market. So as a prime example, we haven't tested it with a load of the industry standard additives, for example. So we need to work with clients to test it for their particular applications, additives and mix designs, to ensure it's compatible. And if there are any issues, we can tailor the concretine formulation to make sure it is compatible. So just to show you a couple of the real world projects that we've undertaken. This one, for some reason, the formatting has gone a bit strange. I'm not sure if you can see it all. It's half chops off my page, but this was the first one that we did back in May, 25th of May 2021. And this was the world's first graphene enhanced concrete slab, which was designed and engineered for sustainability. So we took a standard concrete slab design that we were going to construct here anyway. This is a building that we own and retain and use as a living lab. And we re-engineered that so it's 30% thinner. We eliminated completely all the reinforcement and all the joints. So it's just a 150 millimeter thick slab over that entire area. In addition to that, we've got a two-story high blockwork wall on the slab, and normally we would have a local thickening in the slab with some additional reinforcement to support that line load. It wasn't necessary because of the performance characteristics of the concretine slab. So that's just literally laid straight on top of the 150 millimeter non-reinforced thick slab. Of course, the all-important figure here is the CO2 saving. So on this slab alone, again, compared against our base concrete mix that we would have used, our control mix, if you like, just under 14 tons of CO2 was saved. Another project, so moving now into different applications as we're growing with our knowledge and experience and confidence with the project. This one is in the city centre of Manchester. It's a humble set of parking bays, but very important because we designed this for full highway loading. It's actually a HGV loading bay that serves the building at the top of the photo. So it does take quite some loading. Same principle, reduced the thickness by around 37%, eliminated the reinforcement and the joints, and exactly the same process. So you can see that we're developing the technology for heavier loaded applications as we progress. The final project I'll show you is Mayfield Depot. So this is an old railway station next to Manchester Piccadilly station. Not immediately obvious from the photo, but this is actually a mezzanine deck up some 3 meters or so off the off ground level to create an event space. So this is a little bit different. So it's the first time we've taken the technology off the ground. It's a 54 meter long, 14.5 meter wide slab. As you can see from the upper photo, there is no reinforcement in there. There's also no construction joints on there either. So it's just really positioning the material for use in high-rise commercial and residential developments as an example. So this particular application, we couldn't thin the concrete down any further because from the top of the metal rib to the top of the concrete is only 73 millimeters. But on this application, we saved just under 4.5 tons of CO2. So that's us. And yeah, I invite any questions.
Thank you, Alex, for the presentation. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. My first question is, what is the business model for your product?
So the business model is, so at present, what we're looking to do is work with sort of early adopter clients to grow our experience with the material. We do use it within the construction business ourselves as well. We've got several frameworks with Network Rail, but some of the project examples is no particular order or preference. We're doing some trials with Manchester Airport in the taxiways. Heathrow Airport should be coming up as well. Looking to set something up with National Highways, Eden projects, various different national principal contractors, and various different international contractors as well. So that's the immediate term. Eventually, what we're looking to do is license this product. So this product will be specifiable from a Breeden or a Cemex in the future. That's where we're going with this. But really, it's quite complex technology, and it needs another 2 to 3 years of development, working with the early adopter clients to get it where it's in a position ready for that mass market use. And this is going to be one product of several new innovative concretes. Concrete for Change, Structure Pal as an example. You know, it's one of a few that's coming online over the next few years, but we really foresee concrete being a fundamental part of the low CO2 concrete future.
Yeah, lots of exciting project there. Are there any limitations to the concrete in liquid?
No, so we've designed it to be non-disruptive. In terms of using it with any concrete, it's designed to be used with all the world's concretes. But as I said in the presentation, what we need to do is understand how the concrete reacts with various different admixtures, what happens with cements from different quarries, as an example. And again, so that's all positioning ourselves for these use with early adopter clients, and that's where we're going to learn a lot while going on the journey with the clients, but enabling them to save CO2 immediately.
Thank you. How does it perform with curing times compared to the traditional concrete and joints?
Sorry, say that again. Concrete what? Sorry, times.
How does it perform with curing times compared to traditional concrete and joints?
In terms of structural, it's much stronger, but it acts as the same. It's still concrete. One thing I didn't say is that we're only using around about just less than 2 kilograms of graphene in a 20-ton lorry load of concrete. So it's tiny proportions of graphene within there. It also cures quicker as well, so it enables the follow-on trades to commence quicker. So the program durations are shorter as well, and that's part of I think I mentioned earlier about saving money. So what we're seeing is shorter durations, so not just less materials, but shorter program durations, shorter prelim costs. And that's why on the first project, as an example, Southern Quarter, Jim, that slab was about £100,000 worth of work. Even with the addition of the concreting, we still saved about £22,000, predominantly because of the shorter construction program.
Thank you. Just one last question before we wrap up for this first half. What was the most exciting project you worked on?
The most exciting one was the first one, because it's great doing things in a test tube in a lab, and then it was great to develop that into 3,000 Q beams and prisms, but you can't beat deploying something on a real project. So testing the supply chain, how did it react in the batching plant? Did it segregate within the back of the lorry when it was pumped into place, when it was finished? Pleased to report it didn't. And if you don't believe me, you're all welcome to come down and see our slabs in action. They're all live and under load and are being monitored remotely.
Brilliant. Well, if you want to connect with Alex, I'm sure you stick around for the networking that is happening now. So otherwise, you can always ask for his email. But yeah, we now have a break until 1:45. So if you want to just go grab a coffee or some food, I'm sure I'm gonna go grab some lunch. And then you can also stick to the expo area where you can see the different booths or go to the people section and connect with other attendees. But I'll see you back at 1:45.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice break and that you got the chance to speak with the SMEs and visit their booths and so on. So we are now back for a full hour of presentation. We have 4 SMEs who are going to present. And the first one up is Veyor, with Andy, who would speak about seamlessly connecting logistics and supply chains. So I'm going to welcome Andy to the stage. Hi, Andy.
Hi, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. The floor is yours.
Good. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andy, the account manager for Veyor in the UK. In a previous life, I was project manager on construction sites for the likes of the Barker Group and Bouygues, and I'm now part of the team here at Veyor, where we're all about powering operational efficiency. Veyor was born out of first-hand experience in the field. In short, we were fed up with the delays and cost overruns caused by trying to coordinate extremely complex supply chains using manual disjointed systems. Today, I'm going to run you through a quick snapshot of Veyor, the business, and also our solution. I'm sure that everybody here is already very aware of the stagnant improvement with productivity in this industry, with less than 1% growth year on year for the last 2 decades. And at Veyor, we're all about trying to buck this trend and striving to do so. So firstly, let's just discuss the main problems that we constantly encounter in our workspace and with our clients. And those are that processes are manual and non-collaborative, which make it really difficult to communicate the plan to all stakeholders involved with the project. The supply chain is then disjointed, so efficiently communicating with all parties is almost impossible. And due to the manual nature of these processes and very little data capture, teams don't actually understand how they're currently performing. And without understanding how they're currently performing, they can't then honestly look to see how they might be able to improve. So Veyor is designed to be a centralized platform or one source of truth, which allows live digital collaborative scheduling of materials, plant and people, all parts of that construction process and project. It's a cloud-based app system which can be used on any device with the internet, and so it acts as a single source of truth. And the platform allows 360-degree visibility to all stakeholders involved in the project to really give that full visibility required by those that are controlling those projects. To try and further increase the visibility of our platform, we also offer view-only access to anybody who needs it, and it's all totally free. So how does Veyor work? Firstly, the platform is highly customizable and can suit any project at any stage. Once implemented, subcontractors in the supply chain can request to schedule activities. This could be anything from deliveries to crane lifts and even taking ownership of specific work zones for their employees. The main contractor or logistics manager can then approve or amend these requests, which notifies all parties in real time through the app and push notifications. And then finally, and most importantly, teams on the ground can then in detail track, capture and exchange the data on the actual performance of the project. And we're able to track the live location of vehicles using GPS technology and calculate CO2 emissions for those deliveries as well. We can also understand subcontractor performance and asset utilization, which allows project teams to recognize where improvements can be made. Veyor also incorporates access control and health and safety tools, and its short-term product roadmap includes these features for operational management. As today focuses on innovation in construction engineering, logistics and utilities, I wanted to share one of our success stories with a project here in the UK. In the most recent phase of this multi-million-pound project, the project team instructed us to migrate the entire site over from their previous system to Veyor. The site team were frustrated with the previous system's lack of innovation and generally being quite clunky. Migrating a live site from one system to another was always going to be one of the biggest challenges for us to overcome, but with some careful planning and detailed training, the migration was a success, and the Prince of Wales project quickly became the 3rd busiest project on Veyor's platform within 1 month. By using Veyor, not only has the experience been a positive one for all of the stakeholders, but we're also saving time and therefore money, which we're currently measuring the exact level of. We're now in talks with them to introduce more features, one being our vehicle tracking with their facade contractor, where Veyor will track their vehicles from the continent to ensure the exact arrival time is known, so that the site team can deal with it immediately upon arrival, given the proximity of a local nursery. So the benefits overall that our clients regularly experience are that we have reduced phone calls, text and emails, an improved ability for those involved with projects to look ahead and forward plan, therefore less disputes arising from miscommunications and fewer clashes between each of the stakeholders as well, and reduced cancellations. All in all, this results in a reduced schedule overrun. And we conducted a before and after case study with the University of New South Wales on a $400 million tower project in Sydney, results of which included a 50% reduction in waiting times and estimated overall savings using variable up to 1 day per month. In very short history, we've onboarded nearly all top tier builders in Australia and New Zealand, and we've now started our journey to do the same here in the UK. Our clients include the largest companies in their regions, such as Lendlease, Multiplex and the Barclay Group. This indicates that we're solving a significant pain point that's consistent across the industry. And we're not just on small, low-risk jobs. We're on some of the largest projects in the Southern Hemisphere, including the $20 billion Sydney Metro, the Melbourne Metro and the Sydney Football Stadium as examples. We've also recently started to work with a number of live buildings and facilities management, helping to manage their loading bays in constrained areas. Westfield Shopping Centres is just one of those examples. And to give some understanding as to where we sit in the competitive landscape, we really try to differentiate from our competition with an unrivaled user experience and also the ability to record and monitor how projects are performing, and exceptional customer support framework as well to get going. So thanks very much for your time. If there's interest, it'd be great to catch up during the networking period afterwards. But for now, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Andy. So please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A section. In the meantime, I do have one question. Do you see a difference between the Australian and New Zealand market and the UK markets? And how has that been, this journey of coming over here?
Yeah, being honest, that's sort of one of our biggest challenges, is the fact that Australia, the UK is definitely more mature and there are already systems here in place. So we come up a lot more against people who have systems in place. One of our biggest struggles is making sure that people can see the benefit that we provide over these guys, the current systems. We have a lot more innovative solutions and the user experience is much, much better. So it's just about disrupting those relationships that people currently have and getting the opportunity to get the product tested and show what it can do.
Great, thanks. Do you currently have customers in the UK market, or are you still very discovering?
Yeah, we do. We have some paid clients here in the UK. Because of our business model, we contract with both main contractors and also logistics contractors who are giving specialist services to those projects. So we have clients both as main contractors directly and with logistics contractors. Examples of main contractors are the Barclay Group, St William, NG as well, are two of those.
Brilliant. Last chance to ask some questions to Andy on the Q&A. Otherwise, you can find him, as you said, during the networking time. That will be around 2:45 once we finish with the presentation. Is there anything you want to add, Andy, before we move on to the next presentation?
No, just really appreciate the opportunity. If anybody is of interest, to reach out during the networking session. It's hard to condense everything that we can do into 7 minutes. So I'm hoping that it's triggered a few thoughts with people and we're able to explore those a bit more afterwards.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. So that was Andy from Bayer. Thank you so much for joining us. And next up, we have Future Joinery System with Rob, who will be talking about push button manufacturing from BIM software. So Rob is joining me on stage, and I will let him kick off his presentation.
Hi there, can everyone hear me? Hi, my name is Rob Stiles from Future Joinery System. We're a digital fabrication enabler, and we're rethinking how bespoke joinery is designed and made. With joinery, every job is different, and we want to help architects and designers deliver outstanding bespoke projects by connecting users together and providing them with quality configurable designs. The problem we're addressing is inefficiency, wastage, and a lack of resource. A lot of you will know the current process of bespoke joinery is grossly inefficient, as brief, design, feedback, costing information, redesign, and manufacturing data bounces back and forth between stakeholders. So the problem with bespoke is our familiar problems. There's high risk of errors. It's overly complex design made in inefficient ways. There's wasted intellectual resources. Work is redone at every stage. There's wasted materials, as the layouts are poorly nested onto the panel material. And all this is within a growing skills shortage where craftsmen and quality makers are becoming scarcer and scarcer. All this leads to high costs. We're creating new ways to streamline the process. What everyone wants, architects, makers and clients, is a straighter line from start to finish. If you map the needs and problems of the stakeholders, it's possible to identify interrelated problems that can be solved using this new technology. Our solution is a configuration to manufacturing platform that operates within CAD and BIM packages. We've built software bridges that enable users to curate, design and configure proposals and connect with parametric models in the cloud, which directly drive digital fabrication processes. So first of all, what is parametric design? Found out that a lot of people in the industry don't really understand what this means. It's not new, it's just about designing with relationships between component parts. Architects have been using proportion systems since Palladian times. The CAD technology is well established in aeronautical and aviation technologies for mechanical engineers. And what this allows is for one model definition to exist in millions of different forms. What is a configurator? Website configurators have become increasingly common within e-commerce. They control user choice, enabling users to select customizations and adaptations. What we've done it by stringing together a configurator to parametric models is to allow access to a huge open-ended library of parametric designs. So we streamline that process. What is our process? First of all, a designer can, within the CAD and BIM model, directly pull in the parametric objects, design and configure them. Because those parametric models are linked to a model in the cloud, which is the manufacturing model, it means that we know exactly how much material and exactly how much machining is included within each model. We can then, when they're ready to submit that project, we can create all the data that we need for that digital fabrication and manufacturing process and exchange that by linking together makers with projects, and that data can be used directly to drive digital fabrication processes. What does that mean? Well, in many ways, that completely transformed what a CAD model is. Instead of being a kind of dumb list of user requirements for others to then go out and find how to get, it enables the possibility of using the CAD model as a shopping basket. So everything that's pulled into that model and configured effectively is totaled up at the bottom and can be pushed directly to a manufacturer. So users can not just press print, but can actually press make. So our value proposition, we enable more choice and better quality because it's fabricated using digital fabrication processes where you get exact tolerances to 0.2 of a millimeter. We have accurate pricing. That's the holy grail for architects and designers, because for the first time they're able to tailor projects to very specific budgets, and they're able to understand what choices and changes make massive impact onto the bottom line. And by doing that, we reduce waste across the process. So that's not just material waste, but also intellectual waste and kind of energy from the process, because a project doesn't have to be redesigned multiple times as that cost and manufacturing feedback comes back from the makers. And why else is this different? Well, It also allows you to use the materials in a much more efficient way by nesting them out across the sheets using computational processes, which are just better and faster at finding those efficiencies. In that respect, it reduces carbon because you're using less material. But we also use a distributed manufacturing network. So we are able to connect with machinists across the country to ensure that any project is machined within a close locality to that site. It doesn't need to have centralized manufacturing. It doesn't need to get shipped miles across the world. There'll always be a CNC machinist local to that site. And if they have capacity, their machines will use the data stacks that our software produces to machine directly from the output data. Industry applications. We're primarily concentrating on high-end joinery elements and the use of 2.5 axis CNC, but that's not necessarily the limits of where this technology can be used. We're talking with precast manufacturers where the concrete elements can be configured within the BIM environment. And those models are linked directly to formwork and shuttering models, where we can identify the cost of material use and carbon impact of those elements. We work with schools, local authorities, commercial applications, offices, refits, upholstery seating, as well as the KBB market, that's kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms, casement work, and all sorts of cabinetry. Market traction, we've delivered through our short lifetime so far over 300 cases of project. We've from staircases through to office fit out, through to seating, and you can see in there some concrete shuttering work. We've had some great peer recognition, not just in terms of winning Innovate UK funding twice, but in terms of the Wood Awards, which is a big architectural award, and just recently we've been awarded RIBA Building of the Year for one of our buildings which has our staircase and all our joinery throughout it. We're active on the Construction Innovation Hub, where we participate to the digital working group. So our vision is to be the go-to solution for architects and designers, seamlessly providing quality, configurable products which are directly linked to manufacturing. Okay, thanks. I'll take any questions from the floor if there's any there.
Thank you so much, Rob. Great presentation. Yeah, a couple of questions. What is the company stage of Future Joinery System?
Where are we? We have, thanks for that question. We've just recently come out of our second UK funding under Innovate UK. We are delivering live projects. The app is at a beta stage, and it's working within SketchUp, Trimble SketchUp, which for the construction industry maybe isn't seen as a particularly strong BIM product. But it is for the interior design and architecture world and the joinery world. Our product isn't just out there for designers and architects to use, but we're actually finding that joiners and makers don't have access to parametric technology. They're not as technically literate as perhaps some of the architects are, and SketchUp it is about as much as they're ever going to kind of engage with. And so that's why we built the first iteration of the app for that software, but we've actually built it in quite a kind of smart way, in so much as the whole of the back end is agnostic to any of the CAD software that it fits into. So to push it into Vectorworks and to push it into Revit, and to push it to a internet browser-based configurator, we're already doing that, and it's very little work. It's the database and the back end and the connection where all the real kind of horsepower is.
Thank you. And can you share a bit your roadmap for the coming months, years for the company?
Yeah, as we come out of that funding, we're now about to go into a raise stage. It's a little bit ambiguous in terms of our technology is quite far advanced. We've had significant funding from Innovate UK, which means the technology is a long way there. But really, in terms of the funding and stuff, we're looking at the kind of pre-seed probably stages, and then with that investment, we'll be building that library, connecting with users, adding more robustness to the tools. And at the moment, the beta model is out to a kind of small cohort of architects that we know. They're using that to push those designs. And once we get beyond through the beta, and we will then start to roll that out to other users.
Thank you so much. Any chance to last chance, sorry, to ask any questions to Rob? Otherwise, I'm sure you stick around for the networking afterwards, and you can always connect with him later.
Yes, please do. Please do reach out. The website is there. You can see a demo of the configurator working on the website, and there's a contact form there. Do please reach out to us. We're happy to discuss any projects. Big or small ones can be interesting, and if it helps to build the library of needs, then that helps us. And yeah, do please give us a ring, and we'll chat it through.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Rob.
Okay, no problem at all. Okay.
Thank you, Rob. So next up we have AI clearing with Patrick, who will be talking about monitoring the progress of mega projects with AI. Hi, Patrick. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Pilipczuk, and I am a business development manager at AI Clearing. Let me quickly walk you through what AI Clearing does and how we support large-scale construction projects. I will be happy to answer any question you may have afterwards. Could you please move to the next slide? So in short, AI Clearing is a provider of digital progress tracking and monitoring platform for the construction industry. We identified key issues that we want to address with our solution, and we are focusing our efforts on minimizing their impact on construction projects. Main three issues impacting construction projects are project delays and budget overruns on large-scale projects, because 98% of large-scale infrastructure projects are either delayed and/or they stick to overtime. The second issue is costly rework. It is estimated that rework burns up from 4 to 8% of the total project budget. And the last issue, but also the important one, is risk of claims and litigations, which not only result in additional time needed to close the project, but also can be potentially harmful to your margins. Could you please move to the next slide? Thank you. Industry-wise, our focus lies on large-scale infrastructure construction projects, so transportation being highway projects, railway, airports, and civil works, oil and gas pipeline projects, solar energy, but I could say energy projects overall, because we are also supporting interconnector and overhead electrical transmission projects, waterworks, and civil engineering. Can we move to the next one? Thank you. So what we do is we combine all available project documentation, design files, either delivered in CAD or BIM format, with budget information and schedules, and we combine all of those with drone images. Actually, it's not drone images, but they are drone-based and highly resolution and georeference products. And all of the data is later fed to our AI surveyor, which is our artificial intelligence engine, to perform 100% automated data analytics. And since our analytics is based on visual data, drone images, representing an actual state of the construction site, and our pre-trained artificial intelligence algorithms, the results that we deliver are 100% objective, independent, and because of the full automation of our solution, we deliver our results in just a couple of hours. So as you can see on the right side, these are some deliverables that we provide our customers with. So the first one is construction progress. We can show it in two ways. The first one is inspection to inspection. So how the construction site changed between two drone flights, or progress since inception of the project. So overall progress on the construction side. The second one is adherence to design. So based on the transfer design files, we actually compare them with the drone imagery, and we assess if everything was built according to the design, and we highlight any discrepancies. Because we are using objective visual data and artificial intelligence algorithms, all the data that we provide to our clients can be also treated as built documentation, because everything is stored on our online platform, which I'm going to show you later. Besides that, we also can have a look at the productivity on your site. So, for example, solar project, we can simply have a look how many pallets you've installed since previous inspection, and having scheduled information, we can also create an estimate how should be the productivity rate on your site to comply with the schedules. Can we move to the next slide, please? As I said, we not only provide adherence to design, but we also can have a look at the budget information. So where are you currently on your project? Are you over budget? Are you under budget? Are you exactly perfect as you should be? Having scheduled information, we can have a look at the productivity analytics, but also we can forecast any delays and how we could prevent them from hindering the project. Health and safety checks is also the scope of our offering, and to do that, you do not need any additional information, data, because we are using high resolution, usually 2 centimeters GSD drone data. We can check whether your construction workers are wearing their personal protective equipment. We can have a look at any assembly area overruns. And also we can mark any places that can be hazardous. So for example, if you have deep excavations, we can have a look if there are not any heavy earth machinery, or for example, storage materials that could result in potential collapsing of the excavations. For our clients who have a wide portfolio of projects at the same time, we can aggregate all of those into one single view, providing them with overview of all of their projects at once. And from this view, they can then navigate and drill down per specific project and check the completion status there. Can we move to the next one, please? Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. As we are constantly evolving by improving our roadmap over and over by gathering feedback from our clients, we constantly improve and develop our products. One of our recent developments is our AI Surveyor on-site app, allowing for manual reporting directly from the construction site. Because we know that drone technology is great, but it does come with some limitations, and they are mainly related to object visibility on the drone data. They are either too small to be portrayed in a very good way, or the view on the objects is obstructed. And therefore, using this mobile application, we're able to connect the offline, this is the construction site, with online, so our reporting system. Can we move to the next one? So this is how we deliver results to our customers. This is an online dashboard summarizing all crucial information on the state of your project. And our dashboards present ready-to-be-used analytics results with data visualizations. And our goal is to provide construction teams on the site with a highly interactive and fully hands-off tool, enabling close-up inspection of the current state of your project, while not adding time to their daily duties. So, for example, what you can see right now is a gas pipeline demo dashboard. On the left side, you have listed all the project KPIs we are able to track on this project. And then we have a guitar chart representing data aggregation and millage. Each small section represents 10 meters of this specific pipeline. And the table above is connected with the map component. So it works both ways. If, for example, you click on a specific segment on the guitar chart, the map will zoom in and will allow you to have a closer look at this specific section of the project. So what you are seeing now is this specific section is light blue, which means it was constructed since the previous inspection. Can we move to the next slide, please? Each of our dashboards is different because our customers are simply different. And we carefully discuss with the project teams their needs and expectations towards our solution during project onboarding stage, because we want to achieve the best customer experience possible and make the experience for them very, very seamless. Okay, can we move to the next one, please? But how does it work in practice? So our whole process can be divided into 5 easy and hands-off steps. So the first one is drone operations. So cyclical drone operations over the construction site, we usually recommend to perform them at the end of the shift. Cyclical matter frequency simply is based on your required frequency and reporting requirements. Then the gathered data is processed. This is something we can take over the responsibility through our proprietary data processing module we created to further optimize delivery of the reports on time. Then we feed all available project data. So as I said earlier, design, schedules, budgets, and of course, drone imagery to our AI survey engine to perform 100% automated analytics. And then analytics are pushed to the dashboard where they can be easily accessed by our customers. This whole process cycle takes up to 24 hours. And thanks to further improvements and optimizations, we are able to deliver reporting on a daily basis. And because we know we work with sensitive data, we make sure our internal infrastructure complies with worldwide data security standards. And that resulted in ISO 27000 certification. So yes, can we move to the next slide, please, where we will show a couple of benefits we're able to address. So yes, full construction site area supervision. With traditional land surveying techniques, it is very time inefficient, and by deploying drones, you can cover 100% of your site area. And also our AI engine looks at the entirety of the site, providing you with 100% accurate and complete results. Single source of truth. This is kind of linked with the independence and objectivity I talked earlier, because we eliminated the human factor from the reporting. All of our reporting is done based on our pre-trained AI algorithms. Increasing efficiency, so basically everyone has access to the reports, and by tracking productivity, construction supervisor can see in which area they have to put more people to be on time. Effective red flag detection. So checking adherence to the design, we are able to quickly detect, flag any breaches from the design, so the construction teams can act really, really fast. and preventing this issue from further escalation. Facilitated communication. The dashboard is ready to be used. You don't have to perform any analytics. Simply numbers you can share with all your stakeholders and facilitate communication between all the parties involved in this certain construction projects. And that will be it from the presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond to them.
Thank you, Patrick. It was a great presentation. If you have questions, please put them up in the Q&A box, but I do have a couple of questions for you. Does your technology work in tunnels?
Could you repeat, please?
Yes. Can the technology manage tunnels? Does it work in tunnels?
In tunnels, not at this stage, because this is the limitation of the drones that I've talked about. So basically, our system currently is based 100% on the visual drone images. So if we cannot photograph a certain construction site with a drone, then we won't be able to address that. But we can have a closer look at, for example, LiDAR scans or other robotics solutions that can capture data within tunnels. And also, the other challenge I see with tunnels is the data accuracy. So for example, indoors, collecting data is possible, but the accuracy of data can be hindered by that, because the image gathering device is not able to precisely state its location. So for example, with drones, we can address that by adding ground control points to improve the accuracy to achieve, like, for example, 2 centimeters accuracy of the final product, which makes it engineering grade data.
Okay, thank you. Can you use any drones?
Yes, yes and no. One requirement that is very important for the construction projects is, of course, accuracy. And as I mentioned previously, we can improve the accuracy by ground control points. But the best accuracy we will be able to achieve with drones that are equipped with RTK or PPK module, which is real-time kinetics positioning system. And it can precisely locate where the drone was at the time of taking the picture.
Okay, thank you so much. I do have one more question. If you have any more questions, please put them in the Q&A box. That's a last chance to ask a question to Patrick. Is the data available to live to customers, or do they have to wait to get the data?
So, as I said, in our process, the first process is drone data gathering and then processing. Processing of the drone data is usually the longest part, and it's to just simply the vast amount of data and number of pictures that have to be processed to create the fully measurable and highly accurate drone products. Then our AI analytics happen within hours. Also, that depends on the dataset size. And then after this is done, it's pushed back to our reporting system. And after that's complete, our customers receive a notification that, hey, your data is available, your last inspection is live. Please check your state of your construction project under this link.
Okay, so it's a couple of hours, the time to get the data. Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure to have you. If you have more questions for Patrick or AI Clearing, you can go to their booth in the expo area, or you can connect with them on the people tab.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye, Patrick. Last but not least, we have Luke from Gnome coming to the stage. Luke is joining us from San Francisco, and he's going to talk about automatic insight and knowledge with unstructured data. Hi, Luke. How are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Okay. Well, I leave it to you then.
Great. So thank you so much for that introduction. As mentioned, I'll be talking about leveraging AI for actionable data, specifically for supply chain and forecasting. My co-founder, Andy, is also in the event today. So just quick outline of what I will go over. So I'll talk about supply chain disruptions on 3 different timescales. So next week, next month, and next year. And then a little bit about how it works and how it looks. And then forecasting and other data insights that we provide, and some next steps. So as we all know, the insights are out there. The information is available. It just tends to not be aggregated very well, especially across the supply chain. Once you get past, maybe a couple dozen suppliers, it starts to become really problematic. And the other issue, of course, is as we all experience nowadays, is there's a lot of additional risks for delivery schedules and other things. So, for example, for next week, you may have a perfect project plan, but if there's going to be a delayed material delivery, then work is going to get delayed. And so, you always start off a project with a perfect plan, and then issues wind up pushing things out. And so what our platform does is it offers predictions at the supplier level in terms of when you can expect a delivery and what other issues may be coming down the road. So that's for next week. But what about next month? Well, for next month, there is a bigger impact on inventories and around tier 2 suppliers. So there may be insufficient inventory for a particular part that is required. And so again, our software will surface this for you so that you can act on it, adjust the schedule or make orders earlier than you normally might. And then for next year, thinking more broadly around supply chain risk, we do pricing forecasting as well. So just one example here, usually, you can be dealing with a tier 1 supplier, and then, there's usually a tier 2 supplier as well, and then sometimes even, suppliers downstream as well. And thinking about supply chain risk at a longer time horizon, there's issues around, of course, obviously now we have restrictions around goods from Russia, but there's also other compliance issues. In this case, the tier 2 supplier was placed on a blacklist due to modern slavery concerns. Then they were dropped from a broad market index, and then they had a reduction in their supplier income. Now, when you onboarded this supplier, maybe 10, 15 years ago, these issues were not present. And so keeping track of what is happening with your tier 1, tier 2, and beyond suppliers in terms of what poses risk for projects is obviously very important. And so through our data integration platform, we're able to track what is happening with suppliers downstream. So that's a little bit about the supply chain disruptions that we offer our value for. Now, what does this look like in terms of how it works? Well, so we pull in your data, we pull in supplier data, we pull in external data, variety of different formats, ERP data, engineering diagrams. If there's a representative from Gatwick, we also actually had a conversation with Frankfurt Airport yesterday around some aviation data that's useful. So definitely reach out to us. And we build this knowledge graph, and then out of this knowledge graph, then that's how we're able to generate these wonderful insights. And the magic of this is that some of it does require an integration, but if you just want a risk report delivered to you, if you want those notifications around delivery delays or pricing issues, there is no IT integration required for those risk reports. So how does it look? Well, it's very, very intuitive. We have a dashboard and we have reports that we deliver. They show pricing risk, they show forecasts, and it really gives you the knowledge to be able to plan around issues before they become major problems. We also offer other data insights, And so, for example, we're able to pull in information from a variety of different document formats and synthesize this information in a way that's available. We can look at imbalances and things like scheduling. We also are currently rolling out a what if tool. So you can look at kind of, well, what happens if you have a late delivery from a given vendor? What are the downstream impacts of that late delivery? We've also, as mentioned, started to work with some aviation data, so improving airport operations with some data that is specific to aviation. That's something that we're also currently working on. We do intelligent recommendations. So, for example, knowing when to make purchases for both delivery scheduling purposes, but also for pricing purchases as well. And then for companies that deal with goods being moved across wider regions, we provide a map that shows you impacts at a regional level. So we have a great team. As I mentioned, my co-founder Andy is also here at the event. We have a lot of experience and a lot of data aggregation, insight generation, AI, industrial ERP experience. I think across our team, we've been a part of 3 or 4 different successful acquisitions at this point. So a lot of great experience. So in terms of kind of how we like to proceed, well, you could send us some sample data. You can tell us one of your suppliers, and we'll send you the report. It's a very easy onboarding. If you want to obviously then have a deeper integration, we do a trial deployment. Then we iterate to make sure that it delivers on what you're looking for, and then finally we do a production deployment. So as I mentioned before, we can send reports without any IT integration. Our platform has been commercially validated. We also feel that the team of the machine and the human is superior to either approach. We can surface this information for you, but at the end of the day, the human is the one who is responsible on acting on that data. So this is all about accelerating insights. So for the supply chain risk reports, as I mentioned before, all sorts of forecasting, inventory, delivery delays, pricing, and then on the data insights side, we do documentation insights, unstructured data integration, and yeah, we're looking forward to talking with you during the networking. You can just email us insights@pruise.io. And yeah, would love to talk to you in the networking event afterwards, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you for joining from San Francisco. I hope this time is not too early for you. I feel like every time we speak, it's 6 a.m.
No,
and back to where you are.
It's completely fine. The call yesterday was even earlier, so I'm good.
Brilliant. I have a couple of questions for you. So obviously you're based in San Francisco. What did you choose, or what attracted you to come to the UK market?
So we originally actually, one of our first customers was actually in Austria, and so we already started to kind of gain a presence. We had some initial funding out of Switzerland as well. So actually, even very early on, we had a presence in Europe, and obviously UK, given no language barrier, was a logical point for us. We also found that especially with driver shortages, some of the issues that that our platform works on are particularly helpful to companies operating in the UK.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please put them in the QA box. Can your technology support potential partners at the very beginning of their data journey?
Yeah, we get this question a lot, and I promise you that we absolutely can. We have one customer where their records, it's a very old company, and their records go back until like the 1940s. So I promise you that that you haven't seen anything until you've seen documentation from the 1940s. So yeah, we can definitely work with you even if your data journey is beginning.
Good. Do you have customers here in the UK already, or you're just really starting to discover the market?
So we're kind of, I guess, halfway. We're currently speaking with a few companies, and we have a few pilot projects ongoing.
Oh, great. Well, last chance to ask question to Luke, but thank you. I'm gonna wait 1 or 2 minutes before wrapping up. Yeah, if there's no more question, Luke, thank you so much for joining today. I hope I see you next month when you're coming to the UK. Yeah, it looks like no one has question, or at least they don't want to ask them during the live event. They're probably just gonna come to the expo area or reach you directly. But thank you so much for joining today.
Great, thank you so much.
Have a great day, Luke. Well, that's the end of the event. Thank you so much for joining Driving Innovation in Construction Engineering, Logistics and Utilities. I hope that you enjoy the event and that you learn a lot from our innovative solutions that are all part of the Advanced Construction Accelerator program here at Connected Places Catapult. We hope that it got you to think, and that you will go and reach out to them and discuss with them during the networking that we have going until 3:45 today. Yeah, so thank you so much again, and I hope to see you again. Bye.